clouds up above, vapor, and oceans. That's the second day. And it says the sky was in between, or the firmament. Now that's important where it was. It was between the clouds up above and the water below. In other words, at this point now, what you see, you not only can see darkness at night, but now you can actually see like you're out in the ocean. And you can see when it's daytime, but all you can see is the ocean everywhere you looked, and if you looked up, you see the cloud covering, cloud canopy. Okay. And in between was open stuff where you could see, the sky like we see right now. All right, now, on day 3, you have the earth, the land is separated from the waters. Again, that's exactly what science tells us happened. That, as the two, different plates moved and everything, these things, land became visible. It fits perfectly with what science says. On day 4, the stars and the moon and the sun appear. Now, what's happened now is it says, where's the placement? It says, and he put them in the sky. Where was the sky? It was between. In the verses before, it says the sky was in between the waters above and the waters below. If you take that literally, it means the stars and the sun was only a few hundred miles from us, and not millions of miles away. So that means what's happened now is the earth is cooled and the canopy begins to break up. All of a sudden, you can see these stars. He says that these were put there, the sun to rule the day, the moon to rule the night, and for navigation purposes. So you can, think. In other words, that's the use of it. What you're seeing is then perfectly exactly what science would tell us. On the next day, you have the filling of the sky, of the air in the sea. All right, with birds and fish. Again, they say the older life forms are birds and fish. Exactly what science says. And then the last stage of the animals appear. The sequence are exactly what science suggests. So I don't see any, if you actually, and then the 7th day, there is no evening and morning with the 7th day, because on the 7th day God rested. In other words, it was completed, and he didn't give another vision to them on the 7th day. He says, rather, because of what you've seen, you realize God created the heavens and the earth. Therefore, you need to worship God and God alone, and Jehovah, Yahweh alone, and not some of these other gods, because he's the. You compare the story of creation in the Bible with every other ancient story about creation, and they're as different as day and night. The others, like the Babylonian captivity, or the Babylonian creation story, the gods take the great serpent, cuts in half, and makes the part into the sea and part into the. Creates it out of a serpent. In other words, it's very mythological. You don't find that in the Bible. It's very scientific. That's one of the reasons that I'm a Christian. Is that of every single ancient manuscript, it's the only one that fits with what we know that science suggests. It fits perfectly, and there's no mythology in it. So that's why I believe in an old Earth, not because I have to believe in it, but because the Bible seems to imply exactly that, an old Earth.
So just to recap, because I didn't get the first part on video. So you believe that the creation story was visions given to Adam to explain what happened in the 6 ages, basically.
I believe it was, because when you find poetry, it's either in the books of poetry or it's prophecy. Prophecy is almost always written in narrative, in poetry, and this is poetry. In other words, I believe it was purposely written in poetry because it was a vision. Visions are and dreams and songs and prophecies are almost always written in poetry, and this is written in poetry, Hebrew poetry.
And then, so you said that on the first day, can you repeat that part about the first day of creation?
On the first day of creation, or the first vision is, I believe God gave him a vision of what it was like as the world began to cool to the point, or it says it was void. It says, and the earth was without form and void. In other words, that's exactly what would have been in the creation of in the cooling down of a mass. It would have been all confusion and like that. And so on the first day, you saw the light appear. Light was not created on the first day; it appeared. He said, "Let there be light." He doesn't say, "And God created light." The light was already there, but it wasn't visible there yet in the deep, where in the depths it wasn't there. It was hidden. But as it cooled, then you could see the difference between day and night. And the fact that it calls it day and night and not light and darkness also points that out to me.
So if the light was already there, if the light was already there, was it created before the world?
No, light has a source. The light came from the sun, just like it does today. There always has to be a source for light, and the sun was the light. But Adam couldn't see the light, or at that point, you couldn't see the sun because the canopy and everything else hid it. But and there was all the water. There was water vapor all mixed together, and other elements, and so you could see. But as it cooled, then these things would have separated, and you would have you would have over time begun to see the light if you had been at that point on the earth at that time. So it's the light appeared; it wasn't created. God created the suns and the stars, and those are the source of light, as they are now. They always were.
I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I believe in the old earth, but I believe that when God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, I believe that the deep refers to a state before we have all the elements that we had now. I do believe in the Big Bang.
I think all the elements were here, but
see, I think because we can point back to the probability that there was a single focus where as science says, an inexplicable reason, everything came out of nothing, and in that moment there was great light, and there was a fusion of all these elements.
You're talking about the Big Bang.
I'm talking about the Big Bang, except for I don't believe that it was random or coincidence.
No, I don't either.
So what I believe is that when God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, that was what we have identified as the Big Bang.
But he doesn't say created. No, I don't think so.
Because it says
I agree in the Big Bang. I believe it was the Big Bang, and that may be when light was created. But Genesis doesn't talk about when light was created. It talks about when light appeared. And see, one of the things about the book of Genesis, to understand the book of Genesis, is to understand the reason for it and the plan of the book. If you want to understand a specific portion in the Bible, you have to look at it in relationship to what the purpose was and what the plan to get that purpose was. In the book of Genesis, the key word is the word Toledoth, which is generally translated, "and these are the generations of." A better translation would be, "and this is the result of." In other words, what you find in the book of Genesis, see, the purpose was, why should we worship God, Jehovah God, and not all the other gods like everyone else? Why are we a special people? God's people. That's what Genesis is about. Now, the way he does it, he starts at a general and goes to specific. He starts at the big picture and comes down to the specific, and you find a narrowing down or focusing. Genesis 1 is the general. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's the Big Bang, where he created it. He didn't say how long it took. He didn't say how he did it. He just simply did it. Now, then when you get to 2, it says, "and the earth was without form and void." You're focusing down. It's almost like you're saying, God created the heavens and the earth, but what's important to us is not that he created the universe. What's important to us is where we are. God created the earth. And then the next time you go down is, Right, God created the earth and everything we see today, but what's really important is man. And so he narrows it down to Adam. That's important. But he says, but you know what's really important is one line of Adam, Seth. And you go down to that. And then it says, and of all Seth's children, what's really important is Noah. And then it narrows it down to one of Noah's sons, then one of Shem, and then one of Shem's descendants, Terah, one of Terah's descendant, Abraham, one of Abraham's descendants, Isaac, one of Isaac's descendants, Jacob, who then gets the name changed to Israel, which is the name of the people of God. And so why are we a special people? Because God chose Jacob out of all the peoples in the earth to be the father of the nation of Israel, and his name was changed to that to show that. So you have a narrowing down as you go. The word Barak is used in not Obama. The word Barak means to create out of nothing. He uses that in verse 1. He uses it again, and then you have the first part of the chiasm, the first 3 days. The beginning of the second 3 days, you have 3 days of separation, followed by 3 days of filling. It does not say that God created light. He says he separated the light from the darkness. He did not create water at this time. He separated the water into liquid and vapor. He separated the land from the sea. Now, once they've separated it, then it goes back and fills each of those 3 days. See, and the only 2 times it uses the word Barak there is in the beginning of the first section and the beginning of the second section. God created all of the stars. But what's important is what they mean to us. He placed them in the sky so that we could have something to rule the day and something to rule the night, and so that we can get around the world. So everything in that is pointing. So I believe there was a big bang in which God said, "Let there be the universe," and it is expanding. If you look at the expanding of the universe, and you draw it back, you can algebraically or however you want to say it, it will come to a point with a single point. And so I don't see how you can escape the idea of the Big Bang. The thing is, the book of Genesis is not telling us how God created the heavens and the earth, but that he did create it. And so, this is my belief. I could be wrong. And if I'm wrong, too bad. It ain't going to change anything. God still created it, whether you use it 6 literal days or 6 periods or 6 visions to show us how he did it. The point in Genesis is that God created the heavens and the earth, and what's important is that it in no ways contradicts what science has suggested.
What would you say about macro scale evolution? I'm not talking about micro, but because so if you follow the trend that they predict for macro scale evolution, you can see that it does follow the same course as things suggested in the Bible, one of them being the fact that eukaryotic life, the first evidence for eukaryotic life, such as birds, fish, mammals, etc., is not until the great oxygenation event, which in Genesis does come after God creates the atmosphere. But the theory of evolution also says that you need 2 things. 1, you need genetic variation, and 2, you need some animals with some living creatures with certain traits to pass on those traits, have a better chance for survival and reproduction. But then my question would be, do you think it's possible that living creatures could have died before the fall of mankind? Do you think that death for living creatures entered in because of the fall of mankind, or human death, because animals don't have souls?
It's here. Yeah, I don't. When it says there was no death before Adam, I don't think that means death. It means human death.
Okay.
But as far as evolution, the word evolution means change.
Yes.
I believe in change.
But do you believe that?
But when you're
Do you
talking about
believe that
macroevolution, I got problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, the problem with macroevolution is there's not enough time. Why are scientists talking about multiple universes? One of the reasons is they realize that if there's only one universe, the chances of life having developed is so infinitesimal that you can't count on it. But if you have an infinite number of universes, then you have an infinite number that in one of those life would have developed. That's a cop-out. It's trying to explain why statistically life on Earth, or life to develop statistically is impossible unless you got an infinite number of. If you have an infinite number of things, then anything's possible. Then there's other things that too. With the trouble with macro or micro, either one evolution, is that, like for example, in the Cambrian stage, there is no life before that, and all of a sudden there's a abundance of life. How do you explain that?
Well, I would say God, but I'm curious, without removing God from the equation, do you think that there's anything biblically that would say macro scale evolution is more than likely something that the Bible points against? Such as the timing of when death came into the world.
I wouldn't say the Bible points against it. I think at times science points against it. The Bible isn't concerned about that. The Bible is concerned about letting you know that God created the heavens and the earth. Is not concerned about how long it took. It's not concerned how God did it. It simply wants you to know there is a God, and that God is responsible for the creation of the world. How he did it's his business. It says that the hidden things belong to God. The revealed things belong to us. Science has revealed a lot of things, but there's a lot of things it can't explain. I know God created the heavens and the earth. What his process was he used, I don't know. I have one of the problems I have is you take the ear. It is so complicated. There's so many. In order for it to work, you have to have an intricate, the different parts of the ear. For that to develop the way it is, you have no way why this would have developed into that. It's what you call irreducibly complex. I don't think what you call them. Things, irreducibly complex machines in a sense. They're not machines, but that kind of idea. That if you take one part away, it falls apart. And there's no way why those three would have been logically put together unless it was. In other words, I believe that there is logical or there's design in things. I believe that you can see that in nature. To me, you go out and you see the diversity of life. Science can't explain that. When I was in Mexico City and I was walking between the subways, I saw I go down this hall. On either side there was pictures. As far as you could see, and then turn the corner, they had a picture here, another picture next to it, another on both sides. So I was curious, I looked at it. And both of these first pictures, it was a couple laying on the beach in Chicago. Now, why anyone would lay on the beach in Chicago, I don't know. But there was here. The next picture said 1 to the power of 1. And in this one, it showed as if you were up in the air and you see these couple way down on the beach, way low. The other is 1 to the minus 1. And you're seeing down in just a little bit of the skin or whatever of a person. You know, you're magnifying and you like you're telescoping a thing. And then the next one, it goes 1 to the minus on the one side, or 1 to the minus 2, 1 to the plus 2. Far as you could go, I kept going up, up, up. The last two pictures show the universe. Well, not just it shows the universe, and the other is the micro universe, and they were identical. What I'm saying is, as complex as the universe is, the individual molecules and submolecules and atoms and subatoms and everything are just as complicated. There's no way that can be by chance. It's too complicated. And so I believe that science can give theories about something happened. But if you weren't there, that's all it is. It's a theory. So, yeah, as far as macro or micro, the thing about macroevolution is all of a sudden things change. Micro is gradual change. Of course, that was